Hey everyone, welcome to my live stream again. This is Eric Keller, and tonight, or today, depending where you are when you're watching this, I'm going to be starting a new project from scratch. And so this one is going to be more sci-fi stuff, so I'm taking a little bit of a break of doing straight up insect studies and just stretching a little bit of the creative muscle here. So a couple weeks ago during a live stream, somebody asked about doing an insect-human hybrid, which I haven't done a whole lot of before, so might as well give it a try. I've done some character sculpting. I'm not the world's greatest character sculptor, but I studied my anatomy, and I do have my friend here. Hey. And I have done some character sculpting before. It's something I really enjoy. I want to get into more and more. So what I thought I'd come up with, or what we discussed a few weeks ago, was doing some kind of combination of tree hopper and female character. Hey Philippe, nice to see you. Thanks for joining tonight. And so, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from scratch, and this could be a total disaster, but I think it will be fun regardless of what happens. So I'm going to do a hybrid, sort of what I call a tree hopper princess. That's the concept. And so I just started gathering images online, obviously some duplicates here from various places on Google of tree hoppers, because as you can see, they're pretty fantastic looking creatures. I think I just did a Google search, so some of these things might not be real. This might be AI. I don't know. That design does not look very insect, and this is also doesn't look very real, so that's probably AI or some kind of hybrid right there. But these other guys are real. This is real. This is real. I think there's some photographs from Nikki Bay on here. He's actually a photographer that I've actually been in the field with. I went to Mozambique many years ago, and he was an instructor on a photography workshop. So let me see if I can find his picture. It's in here somewhere. This one I think is real, but it's hard to say. It's a little bit on the fantastic side. The fact that these false pupils are so large and so blurry makes me wonder if that's real or not. I don't know. I'm not a tree hopper expert. I know more about bees and that kind of thing. Bees and ants. Donald Tan, I don't know him. Let's see. In any case, there's some cool stuff on here. So, the other thing I did was I looked on Pinterest for various designs. And I also went to Night Cafe for some AI inspiration, and as usual, was sorely disappointed. So these are terrible. This is not what I'm going to be doing. This is what you get when you type in tree hopper female hybrid character in a Night Cafe. It's really lame. But that's what I want to avoid doing. But if you go on Pinterest, what Pinterest really is these days, aside from occasionally good photographs like this one, most of Pinterest is AI. Unless you turn off the AI feature in the preferences, whenever you're looking at Pinterest, assume these days that like a good 80% of what you're seeing is AI. So in my opinion, if you don't want to bother using an AI generation tool, just go on Pinterest. There's some cool stuff here, and usually it's all the same kind of, stuff, but I found some interesting ones, some stuff with potential. So let's pull up Pinterest here real quick and see if we can grab a few more interesting images. I'll move this over here. And I think I did a search for tree hopper princess and just kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit. So, most of the stuff on here is kind of dumb. Some of it's kind of cool though. This one's okay, just for inspiration. It's a lot of this kind of stuff, sort of generic pretty girl with stuff all over her face. So we'll probably end up doing something like that, but hopefully I could do something a bit more original. There's some interesting ideas here. But you can see what I mean? This is all pretty much variations on a theme. This one's got some potential just for ideas. And, these days I was discussing this earlier today with my wife, and we were talking about AI and all this kind of stuff. And, AI as a concept tool is good for generating a lot of quick ideas very quickly. It's like photo bashing meets a Google search times 1,000. But I don't think it's necessarily a replacement for good concept art yet, because it's very hard to get something specific. I think what we're seeing here is basically a lot of kind of random stuff that somebody somewhere generated, or who knows, maybe Pinterest just generates and sticks it up here, and then they just throw it up here, whatever looks cool. So it's decent for inspiration. But we're going to do some sculpting. This is kind of an interesting one for the face. Whoops, that's the same one I had before. Let's refresh that. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, let's move Pinterest off to the side for now. At least we have enough to get started with. And what I'm going to do is, let's move these a little bit closer, is I'm going to start with kind of a default female figure here in ZBrush. I'm going to do a lot of Dynamesh to kind of bash out some concepts. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sculpt pretty much in kind of a default pose. And then later on, as I get closer to something that I like, I'll probably pose it with Transpose Master or something like that. But just looking at this, I'm kind of digging the triangular with the wide eyes on some of these tree hoppers. Maybe it was some kind of crazy headdress on top, like this kind of stuff. But I'm liking this kind of thing right now. So that's got my attention to begin with. And then I have this book right here, which is kind of a cool book. Also more inspiration. Books are my favorite, but they're hard to do in a live stream because I got to hold them up like this, But there's some really cool scanning electron microscope images in here of tree hoppers and other things. I think this is all tree hoppers, this whole book, yeah. It's kind of cool. But that is all, that's all actual real photographs. No AI in that one. Okay, so I'm going to move this off to the side for a second, and let's get ourselves a figure. I'll go to Lightbox and look under Tools. We can either start with a tool or a project. And Julie is all right. I've abused her enough in the past. Female ZPR, that one's a pretty good one. Let's start with that one. Female ZPR. Yeah, credit there for the artist. Yeah, this should be a great start. I mean, it's a little exaggerated in the forms here, but it's still going to work. I feel like the arms are a bit long. I don't know. And it's just one subtool, so that's cool. Let's see, is it already Dynamesh? No, it's got geometry, so I'm going to go ahead and Dynamesh this girl, and just start playing around. So let's go in here, and if I just do the default settings, pretty low poly, so let's get up here. That's 2 million, so that's pretty good. And make sure I have the right pen here. Got symmetry on. Got some inspiration here. Let's start with something like this. The other thing is I like to use Dynamesh and Sculptress at the same time. So I'll get myself, well, I'm going to turn on Sculptress because if I choose the snake hook brush, I get that annoying warning. It starts with an S. There we go. We're doing some classic alien stuff. Oh, I'm already getting a kind of Fifth Element vibe here, so. Now let's turn off Sculptress, or let's go to the Move brush. So one of the challenges I want to do with this particular character is I want to try and make her not creepy and make her insectoid and strange and alien, but also attractive, or at least not creepy. So I'm going to play with that kind of concept. I'm still going to have a nose here. So we're looking this, we get a kind of a dip here. That's looking kind of weird. Maybe we won't have a nose. All right, I'll just redo a nose later. Oh, and also I want to use my favorite material. And we'll get clay tubes. Lower the Z intensity. And I'm just going to turn off Sculptress for a moment. I like Sculptress when I'm using the clay tubes. I mean the snake hook brush, but not necessarily when I'm using clay tubes. So we have kind of a bit of a hood kind of deal going here. Get my, let's see, I'm going to load one of my favorite brushes, the SK cloth brush. Let's see. Here's my machine. chortles away. All right, let's save this guy, girl, real quick. Okay. And kind of like this kind of thing. And I think I want to make these guys even bigger because this guy's really kind of crazy, out of control. And I always think it's a good idea to, you know, push the limits when you're doing something like this. It's definitely looking much more tree hopper-ish. Should make tree hopper Dennis Hopper is what I should be doing. A tree hopper Dennis Hopper at the diner in Edward Hopper style. Maxon, hi. I believe the tool polygroup it from Paint isn't working for everyone. Is that right? Don't know. I haven't tried that yet. Version 2025.3. What I would do is upgrade to 2026. It has been released, so I'm using ZBrush 2026. I haven't used that plugin that much. And keep in mind, I'm not Maxon. I'm Eric Keller, right? So I'm a live streamer for Maxon. So I'm an artist, and I know some things pretty well, some things very well, some things not as well. So in terms of polygroup it from Paint, I don't use that tool as much. So you might want to actually talk to Paul Gabry or somebody at, when Paul Gabry does his live stream, or Ian, and see if they can answer your question for you. But I don't know I don't have any personal information on an update to that. Like I can't tell you if that's been fixed or not. Sorry, I hope that's a satisfactory answer. Thought was a moderator that account. I don't know if I don't think so. It's just I'm a live streamer. So what Maxon does is has a certain number of artists who've been using ZBrush for a long time basically act as live streamers to promote their talents and promote ZBrush and that kind of thing. So, but we're not necessarily tech support. I guarantee you that there are live streamers who probably know the answer to that question. It's just unfortunately I'm not one of them. But if anybody knows, it's Paul Gabry. But like I said, if you want to look at any fixes, get the latest version of ZBrush 2026. It came out last week or the week before. It's been out for a little while now. Okay, so I kind of like this cleft here down the middle. It's interesting about the tree hoppers. I don't necessarily see ocelli on this one. It's going to be fun to do the textures on this, though. I do like the kind of cheeks here. And this kind of thing coming down. And whenever you're doing insectoid stuff, think about those divisions between the plates. Because, exoskeletons, that occurs a lot. You can, of course, play with it and have them blend into softer parts as well. But if you're doing something that's truly insect-inspired, then at least for many of the places, you want to have those definite divides here. I kind of like this kind of overhang here and how some of these details are kind of popping out from underneath. Suggests that maybe this is movable. And I'm going to put eyes in here in a moment. I'm just kind of still playing with the face shape. And the question becomes, do I want to do a human mouth or no? I think I might put that off until later, but I'll give a slight human-like chin for the moment. And I like these little divots here, very cool. So I can do that with this kind of thing. Just something to keep in mind for later. So that's kind of cool. And then I think, let's take a look at this guy. I want to make this middle part a bit taller. Quite a bit taller. Yeah, it's like a little witch's hat. Just in time for Halloween. So there's going to be some cool opportunities for details on this thing. And make a straighter line, I think, maybe. Just to keep that silhouette consistent. Pushing it out a little bit. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. Thank you, Santiago. We're playing around here with the idea of doing a tree hopper princess. So I'm just winging it. I'm sorry, that might be a bit of a pun. So feel free to throw out any ideas that you have or opinions, whatever. This is all about having fun. And to see if we can come up with something more interesting than what AI could come up with. Of course, AI just steals everybody else's artwork, so, whatever. Okay, so that's what we have of the head so far. Very melodramatic. So I want to think about, before we get too far with the rest of the body, I want to think about, the rest of the head, I want to think about the body some. So we have this kind of, a lot of this kind of sloping ideas, angle, which I've kind of captured a little bit in here. Could even try this just as an experiment. This is kind of doing the opposite of this. Maybe that's going too far. I don't know. At a certain point, it's going to be too heavy for our head. So maybe not. I kind of like this anyways. I think any bigger, it's going to make her look like she needs a thicker neck, which is going to take away from her femininity. So let's see what we can do about the body. Let's take a look at some of our Pinterest concepts here. That's kind of straight up female with some details. This is much more insectoid with some ideas of a human figure, which I kind of like that. These are kind of like bony leather-clad female with a crazy headdress. This sculpture I just like. I thought it was cool. So maybe there's something there I can steal from it. This is like somebody blending a mantis with a shrimp with a, I don't know what else. That's got to be AI generated. There's some, this is a real thing. I definitely want to get some of these wing textures in later. So we have a lot of this kind of stuff we can steal. And then of course there's also the blobbies. I like the blobbies. This is a real tree hopper. This is a real tree hopper. Look at how the wings come out like that. That's so cool. So maybe I'm thinking in the back here, you know, if we do something along the lines of this in the back where the wings come out, you know, like this. And then maybe on her shoulders we can incorporate some of these blobby deals. That's kind of interesting right there. I don't think this one is real. I think this is AI. Could be wrong though. Tree hoppers are pretty wild. And this is kind of cool right here. There's something here that I'm between these two that I kind of want to steal from. Okay, so let's take her back here and turn on snake hook. Yes, thank you for the warning. So I'm thinking a negative space could be kind of an echo of this. Let me refine that a little bit. Of course, now I'm getting close to hunchback territory, which is not the most attractive thing. So let's go back a little bit. I'm going to turn off Sculptress to a Dynamesh, and then let's go over to Move. And refine this a little bit. Make it pointy. A bit more elegant. You can always look at our silhouette here. I want to make sure that she still has ability to move her hips and stuff. She's not going to be super flexible. I don't know. That's all right. All right. I'm going to play with it a bit longer, but I might kill this idea if it starts to look ridiculous. So what I might do is go in here with the my S-cloth and kind of define, because what I liked about this was this sort of right here where the wings came out. So let's think about that and create an area for the wings to come out. Make sure Dynamesh is still on. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to make her legs much more insectoid. So I think hopefully that will start to bring some unity to the idea here, because I really like where the head is. I'm just not sure if this is helping or hurting that. It might be, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. Can always chop it off later. I'm drawing these details, not so much to have details, but just to see if I can convince myself that this is a good idea or not. I like the shoulders. I mean, I'm going to bring these out a bit more. And we're going to have some wings coming out of this area right here. So I'm going to make a nice deep depression here. And then don't want to lose sight of the humanoid aspect, so I'll just bring this out for her ribs. But I don't want to make them too big because that's going to destroy the sort of feminine quality that I definitely don't want to lose. So we'll do that. I'm thinking in terms of negative space here. You know, this kind of thing I kind of like. You can kind of echo this design in the eyes a little bit. Let's make sure we keep the neck thin. Notice what we don't have is a long antenna on these guys. Let's see if we can find any. Yeah, we have just very short, thin, almost invisible antenna on these tree hoppers. So what I might do now is let's bring in some geometry for the eyes. Save this guy real quick. And I'm going to do that just really quickly with an insert mesh brush. And control click on this, control click on it again, and under subtools I'll do split hidden. Rename this eyes. And I like how these guys are kind of misshapen, and they're not perfectly spherical. See this kind of thing? Might even separate the top as do another subtool eventually. See how we feel about that. That's kind of cool. Definitely buggedy. So, obviously I managed to be successful in not doing just, the sexy girl with stuff on her face and wings bizarrely coming out of her ears for some reason. This one's even worse. Look at this. It's like, come on, man. Are you even trying? AI, he's so stupid. This looks like just a very bad Halloween mask. In fact, I think I have this Halloween mask, except for the dumb wings coming out of the back. It's irritating me how stupid this is. Considering I worked on that prompt for all of 7 minutes, after I click through all the ads. Some cool stuff going on here. Although this is most definitely AI as well. It's just somebody spent more time on it. There's some random stuff coming on. So you got the typical big eyes, little kid nose is slightly pink, pretty lips, and then random stuff down here. This one actually seems to have a bit more of a design concept, sort of. I still think this is AI as well. This one, other than the fact that it has a name by it, this one looks like it's a little bit, there's a bit more thought put into it. So these are all definitely AI though. But there's not to say that we can't steal some ideas from this. Why not, right? So let's go back here, and I'm going to work on the face again. And I think I am going to do something like human lips, just for fun. That's a great way to get appeal, right? Oh, she looks very happy. I kind of like the ambiguous nose here. Ambiguous nose. Yeah, I hate AI art as well. That's why I'm kind of stealing from it mercilessly. I got a bit of a John Henry thing going here. What I want to do is look at the AI art and steal whatever, anything that's even a halfway decent idea from it, and then see if we can just do something that's much more interesting. That's the plan anyways. We'll see. Like I said at the beginning of this live stream, this could turn out to be a disaster and a fool's errand, but as long as we have fun, that's all that matters, right? That's kind of cool, except from the front it doesn't look great. Down here it looks good, but from the front it's a little bit too much of an angle. Well, that's kind of interesting though. I mean, definitely has some character to it. I like how the mouth is just a little bit too low for a human mouth. Yeah, they definitely all follow the same pattern. And yeah, they haven't learned anything, so there's nothing that they can offer. That's just like I think think of it as like doing the same as a very quick image search on Google. But like I said, the stuff that I generated today, just a night cafe is just god awful. And whatever this is from Pinterest is better, but it's the same. It's variations in a theme, right? Pretty girl, big eyes, lots of detail on the face, fairly symmetrical, somewhat of a pose, And I could find probably 60 more images just like this within a minute and a half, But, you can just use it as a way to kind of get the bad ideas out of the way, and so you can come up with something that's maybe hopefully slightly more interesting. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that, well, almost. Just a couple more tweaks and then I'll leave it alone, I promise. Too much of a depression here and it's going to look like plastic surgery disasters. And this is supposed to be a philtrum, not a nose, so I'm going to Okay, I'll come back to the lips later. I don't want to just get too obsessed because I'll end up making it worse. But it's okay. Looks good from the side and from this angle. It's not great from this angle, but I don't know. It's definitely alien looking. So I'm going to keep it for now. And once I pose her head, maybe it'll make more sense. But he's definitely reading his tree hopper, which I'm pleased with, So what I like to do now is maybe work on the arms a bit. So let's take a look at tree hopper legs. They're, pretty straightforward insect legs. Like I said, I don't think this is real. These are more interesting. This is real. This one started to bug me. I'm going to delete it because I think it's... This is kind of what I'm thinking. Segmented legs. Maybe something between this and these. We have a beautiful illustration done here. Oh yeah, this is a nice illustration. Some good detail on this. I think this is AI art, so I'm going to delete it. Andreas K., he's a very famous entomologist and insect photographer. Big fan of his. He passed away a few years ago, but he has some really great stuff. Oh, these are cool. Okay. Well, let's just start by breaking it into segments, breaking the legs into segments. So I'm going to take this and just start by. Okay. And then let's do a segment right here. So we're going to do, this is hybrid human insect. So I kind of want to go maybe something like this. It's going to look like a robot, and insects look like robots. Right? And then I'll wait on the hands here, but it might be interesting to suggest sort of the tarsi right here, the smaller segments that we see on insects as we get closer to the feet, to the insect feet. Well, these are our hands, obviously. We'll see. Maybe I'll give her much more insectoid hands. But I'm going to chop these arms off and make them their own subtool. So let's switch over to Select Lasso. And we'll do, let's save this real quick. Split hidden. Yeah, there is a setting in Pinterest where you can turn off AI images, or at least images that have been tagged as AI. I can't find it. My wife found it on her Pinterest. I can search for it on mine, but I know it's possible. Because you're right, it is a shame because Pinterest used to be very cool, especially if you're doing just like crafty stuff or whatever. And now it's just become just completely inundated with AI. So the only reason I used Pinterest today was because I couldn't get a decent AI image from Night Cafe, which is kind of the point. I wanted something stupid. It's just to show how stupid it was. But Pinterest was a bit faster because I just know it's all AI slop. It's too bad because, when I first started out, being able to do a really cool concept like that with like a beautiful woman's face with all this kind of cool detail and everything was a real interesting challenge. And now it's just like, if you do it, the first thing people are going to say is, that looks like AI. So I want to do something here that doesn't necessarily look like AI. People are going to say that anyways, but at least anybody watching this will know that it's not AI. Hopefully. Let's get in here and do modify topology. Delete hidden, close that off real quick. I just didn't want that little chunk there. Now what I'm going to do is, let's turn off line for a second. I'm going to split these into polygroups. is the same method I use when I do bugs. So I'll do that as a polygroup. This is a polygroup. This is a polygroup. And this. I'll leave the hand intact for now, but I might do something funky with that later. And now I'm going to do Dynamesh with groups on. And that will separate these guys into their own geometry. I'm going to go into brush and under masking, auto masking, turn up mask by polygroups. And go in here and then start just creating a little bit of separation so that they are obviously discrete segments. I kind of want to have one more segment here on the hand. So let's do this. Turn off mask by polygroups. And I'm going to do this. This is cool because she'll be able to bend her wrist in a very strange way. And then we can make this right here more of like a coxa. So I'll do this. Hollow Knight vibe. You talking about the video game Hollow Knight? It's a pretty cool video game. Oh, my internet's super slow today. I don't know why. Yeah, I like that game. I haven't played it in a while, but it's a cool one. Very beautiful design, so I'm going to take that as a compliment. Let's bring back our bring this back because I don't know why it disappeared. I think this crashed on me, so let's do this. Oh man, that's kind of a shame. I think I lost some of my images. Oh well. Nope, it's right here. Okay, that's weird. Let's save this. Are you saying that ZBrush is crashing on you a lot? Sometimes when ZBrush starts to get really slow, you can always go down here to your quick save. The default is 1,000 quick save files, and these files could be very large. So sometimes it's a good idea to bring this down to like 100 and then delete quick save files, and that will free up space on your hard drive. That sometimes can help reduce the amount of crashes that you're having. You can also go into memory and try adjusting your settings. Yeah, every session crashes in 20 minutes. The other thing you might want to try is maybe it's your quick save setting. You could try turning on skip history if it's crashing during a quick save. And then another thing you can do is under performance, you can actually do some tests here. Trying to find there's a good way to do the I haven't done it in so long. I used to compact the memory when I was having problems. I haven't done that in a long time. But let me see. Which under Z benchmark. Try running a Z benchmark and see if there's an optimal setting for your computer that might help deal with that. ZBrush, I know, does a lot where it trades memory with free space on your hard drive, like virtual memory. So there might be a setting there. If your hard drive is almost full, like your C drive, that could be causing problems. So just looking at the segments here of the legs. Now they fit into each other. Let me see. This one's pretty good. See if we can get this kind of of course, we want her to be able to move her arms like a person still, but I want to get insectoid feel. So this is a little bit tricky. Yeah, I save very frequently, and I know there's some things where ZBrush crashes a lot, especially when deleting subtools and sometimes with Dynamesh. I haven't had that much problems with crashing lately, but this is a brand new version of ZBrush, so I've only been using it for a short while. I like this shape right here. I'm just kind of shaping this real quickly now. And then I'll come back and do some refinement on it. I'll probably separate the fingers into their own segments as well. For now, I'm just going to keep them like this. Well, now I have the urge to play Hollow Knight, so I'll probably do that tonight after this. And then what I'm going to do is go in here with the SK cloth. And just start to kind of play with the edges a bit. And then we're going to probably want to pull something out here. I know. I'm just kind of improvising here right now, playing with some ideas. Do I know Ikumi Nakamura? Not personally, no. Do you ever try to conceptualize your own ideas? Well, that's what I'm kind of doing right now. I'm using, this is obviously not a real insect. And I do have, in the previous ZBrush live sessions, I've created a few made up insects. So I made like a wasp, a made up wasp last year. I don't know, me to kind of inform the design. I think the arm has gotten away from me a bit here. This bicep is looking kind of weird. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I mean, I do every once in a while. I did a lot when I first got into insects. I got kind of a little bit of a big head and thought that I could do at least as good a job as nature. I can't. Nobody can. Nature is just way too cool. But, I experimented with a lot of my own designs. And, I look back at them now and they're cringeworthy for sure, because I've learned a lot more about insect anatomy. But it still was fun to do, and I got to explore different techniques in ZBrush by doing that. Yeah, I really like S-Cloth. I used to use the Damien Standard brush all the time for everything. And it's a fine brush, but it has a little bit of a pinching, so you get that kind of typical Damn Standard look. And the SK Cloth brush is just my favorite because that and clay tubes are my two favorite brushes. They're my workhorses because you just get such a nice smooth line out of it. So I'm going to go in here, let's turn on solo again, and just start to refine this with clay tubes. Now that I just kind of blocked in a few, or sketched in a few ideas. I don't really care if it drifts too far from my sketch. Yeah, it was really funny. I was like coming up with this concept of this alien world, and I was trying to create this ecosystem, and justify it, whatever, using what I knew of at the time of evolutionary biology, or what I thought I knew of it. And every time I came up with some cool scenario, I'd end up reading something or talking to an entomologist and finding not only that this scenario had already been done in nature before, but it had done 1,000 times in more interesting ways. Like the fig wasp has such an interesting relationship with figs. The whole life cycle is basically it's sort of a symbiosis, but they sort of feed off of each other in a way. It's very interesting. And that kind of thing just blew my mind. So after a while, I was like, maybe I should just study some more nature and then play with ideas later. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. For a long time, I was just very, went the opposite direction, was just only doing real insects as accurately as possible, which really paid off because it helped me learn a lot about, insects and insect anatomy, but also about sculpting. And, I'm friends with a lot of entomologists, and that kind of helps as well. And I forgot to turn on back face masking, and so now I've got to fix that. Okay. I always forget back face masking. When you're using a clay brush, it's important to turn on, in the brush settings, back face masking under auto mask, because otherwise when you come up to these thin parts, it's going to start to suck one side and you don't notice it until it's too late. So it's no problem. I didn't really get that far with it. I did some fly models for Brian Brown, who's a entomologist at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles, and he's a friend and a really interesting guy. He's an expert on flies. What you guys got to realize about entomologists is they're very cliquey. You have the fly people, the ant people, the spider people. All right, that's arachnologist, but you know what I mean. Butterfly people. Everybody makes fun of the butterfly people. Lepidopterists. If you really want to piss off a butterfly person, just say there are no such thing as butterflies. There's only day moths. They hate that. But it's all good-natured fun. But Brian Brown is a cool guy and a very interesting scientist. And when I did models from him, he would take a look at them and said, "You got some things wrong and other things very wrong." So that's usually my advice, and so I had to go back and revise them again and again to get them right, and so it was good to go through that. And my first favorite insects were ants. I still love ants. They're very cool. But right now, I think my favorite is just bees are incredible. Bees live up to the hype. All types of bees, not just honeybees. Yeah, you can say that. I usually do that too. Of course, you turn on Sculptress, you get that annoying message. Whoa, sorry. A cat just jumped on my desk. Come here. Come here. This guy right here. Oh, I just lost my camera. Don't give me that look. All right, my camera's not working now. Thanks, cat. I'm going to turn it off for now. Hopefully the stream is still going. Yeah, what I was saying was when you turn on Sculptress, if you have backface mask enabled, it gives you an annoying warning. So, yeah, cats do have a talent for scaring the crap out of you when you're not paying attention, especially at night when you're sculpting in the dark. Right? Don't give me that. I spent most of my life as a dog person. I've only recently converted to cats. So I'm learning a lot of stuff about the differences. One of the big differences, no walking. Yay. The other thing I love about cats is in the middle of the night, if you hear something strange, instead of assuming that there's a serial killer in the house or it's haunted or something like that, you can just blame it on the cat. Even if there is a serial killer in the house or it is haunted, at the very least you have those few moments of comfort thinking it's just the cat. So that allows me to fall back to sleep. So I'm just kind of winging it here. Let's see how this looks. I'm just using the clay tubes brush as a way to kind of find the shapes. I'm still improvising and making this up as I go along. That's unfortunate. Cats will do that. This one's not so bad. This one was a rescue, and for the first couple weeks, he hid in the house, and he was very antisocial. And then all of a sudden one day, he just flipped on a dime, then he became Mr. Social. Now he's always around us, usually. And he does love to sit on computers and walk across keyboards, and he likes the feel of a Cintiq nearby. So he's a very social cat. So I'm very happy about that. Overall, a good cat. So let's see, I'm going to go in here and I'm just hollowing this out so I can add a little bit something in between there to connect the segments. I don't know if you guys have tried out ZBrush for the iPad, but I've been using it a lot lately. It's very nice when I'm sketching and watching TV or something. I feel a bit more relaxed when I'm using it. I do think the interface is very nice. I'm getting used to working without hotkeys, so that's a little bit tough. But overall, I think they did a really nice job porting it over to the iPad. I know it's been a lot of work, but they've changed the interface in many good ways. And I know they have a lot more in store coming up later this year. I think the ZBrush Summit is in November. I think I might actually do the Sculpt Off this year, which I have not done before. But if I have time, I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'll do well in it, but it'll be fun to do. I think the Z Summit is online again this year because they just moved their offices, so they don't really have a space to do the live Z Summit. this little divot here. There we go. I'm just kind of playing with some ideas here. I kind of like to sculpt fast and loose because I always can change these ideas if they don't work out later. Yeah, but, you know, every once in a while, of course, you run the risk of just getting carried away with something, and then when you unhide everything, you're like, that's terrible. But, you know, this is not for any client or anything like that, so it's just about fun. You never know, I might explore an idea that doesn't work out here, but something I could use on another part later. I think what I could do is let's give her some spiky D's to keep with this kind of motion. So we have a little bit of repetition of forms. I thought this part was just a little bit too bulbous. I think that's a little bit better. Nice to set up a rhythm though between these parts right here. Let's save this guy, girl. And then I'm going to make this a little bit thinner so I can make it look a little bit more feminine. It's gotten a little too thick, I think. Okay, let's sand that down a bit. I think I've lost the human anatomy completely on the arm, but sorry, I can always bring it back with some reference. I don't know if I like this. This is getting a little bit away from me here. Let's do that. When I get into a spot where I feel like I've lost it too much, I move to a different part of the body, and I can always come back to it later. Overall, I think it's pretty cool. I think I might work on the torso a bit, and I think again for this I'm gonna split this into parts. Let's do this. I'm gonna go Dynamesh it, and I'm gonna chop off the head. Make that its own subtool. Something like that. So do subtool, split hidden. And then I'm going to make this its own subtool. Split hidden. And then I'm going to make this its own subtool, maybe this. Faster, could be fun. Who knows? We'll save it in a new version. Who knows? We'll save it in a new version. I usually do, for substance, my ZBrush workflow is I do as much as I can in ZBrush, or as much as I like to, including polypaint for basic colors. And then what I'll do is I'll send the model over to Substance, and bring in, bake the maps in Substance from the high to low for normal and curvature and all that. Bring in The poly paint is a base color just as a starting point, and then I'll build off of that. That's generally my workflow. I still tend to like to sculpt details, even fine details in ZBrush, because that's my thing. I like ZBrush. I like the way the brushes feel. I'm used to it. I've been doing it for 20 years now, so ZBrush just feels more natural to me. But definitely, the Substance has some really great features in it as well. So I use the two together, and then also sometimes Marmoset. I haven't used Marmoset in a while though, but Marmoset has really good baking. My wife is a really excellent ZBrush. I mean, she's a great ZBrush artist, an excellent Substance artist. She just came in second in a contest, a texturing contest, which is pretty cool. So she's been doing some cool stuff lately. And sometimes we collaborate as well. I'll do like some basic stuff in Substance and set it up. Like a lot of the cafe stuff I did on the cafe model that I did for the ZBrush beta, just this past beta. I set up the basic textures, the files in Substance, and then she took it from there and did some amazing texturing work on it. So, for example, there's a cafe I've been working on for a while now. So I did all these models in ZBrush, but you can see the texturing that she did in Substance is really amazing. This stuff right here. Like I did this, so you don't really see that much, but she did the texturing on these in Substance, and they came out really nicely. And I think this actually has some better images right here. It's funny because when we go out together, especially wandering around here in France where you have wonderful churches and abbeys and just amazing stuff that's hundreds and hundreds of years old, we'll start wandering around with our cameras, and it's like every 2 feet we have to take a picture. And even if we're sitting in a cafe, she'll have her camera right up next to the table, taking a picture of the wood grain and the weathering and stuff. It's pretty funny. Like she did this stuff in Substance, this detailing, cracked wood, which I think is really cool. And let's see, I have a link to her website in here somewhere. Oh, jeez, I'm not a robot. Yes, I'm not a robot. Thank you. Why do I need to do a security check? I'm just going to a website. This is how the robots take over. Okay, yeah, so she's done some of this really cool stuff. And she helped out on Wednesday as well, season 2. Irene Devon, right here. So I think she has more to come too. Anywho, so that was a long-winded answer to question. So yeah, I use Substance. All right, let me turn off. Well, actually, we'll just do this. Control W to polygroup the whole thing. Whoops. Now let's Dynamesh it. So the question is, what am I going to do about the boobs? Well, this being the internet and all, everybody loves boobs. So the only answer to that question is to make them bigger, right? Hopefully not screw them up. Well, either my cat is puking or the serial killer's back. I'll create some space in here for the wings, which I haven't figured that out yet, but I'll definitely add. What I'll do is I'm going to actually pull this in quite a bit. And here we're definitely making up some crazy anatomy. I'm going to create a space in here because I want the abdominal segment to kind of fit into here. Create that look of segments. Get rid of this crunchy stuff. Sometimes the crunchy stuff won't go away. I will turn on Sculptress and use the smooth brush to get rid of the weird geo. Sculptress with a smooth brush can sometimes be like a really good erase brush. Can create holes though, so that's why I keep Dynamesh on, because I just Dynamesh every few seconds to get rid of any of the holes and stuff, and to kind of stabilize the geometry. There we go. Okay, I'm going to turn off Sculptress And let's go back to this. Well, make sure that I don't lose the really important stuff like the collarbones. So I think this will come out over this, and so I'm going to tuck these things. Well, this is going to be tricky. Okay. I'm going to tuck the head into there. I'm going to bring this back here. This is definitely a weird design. I'm glad. I like it. I just did show her profile. Let me... it is... Irene Devon on ArtStation. It doesn't always share links here in the chat, so hopefully you can see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this because I don't like it. Do this, and I'm going to Dynamesh this. So this is becoming sort of like a carapace in a way. So now I'm going to bring this over. All these segments are going to come to the head, neck, right here, and these shoulder parts are going to come together right here, and hopefully look cool and not stupid. And what we can do is maybe just kind of echo this kind of thing. Interesting. Okay, so let's do this, and then I'm gonna do this. I'm definitely getting kind of a regal sense out of her, you know. She looks like some kind of weird alien princess. So I think that's working. No. Trick is not to mess up the boobs. I guess we've got a Giger thing going on here. Not necessarily a bad thing. Get the clay tubes going. I don't know if she's going to be doing kung fu anytime soon, but you know, the tree hoppers do look kind of weird and awkward, so in that sense I think it's staying true to the design idea, the original concept. Let's take a break to look at some tree hoppers. Yeah, I mean, these guys don't necessarily look agile, they look freaky. Oh man, it's going to be so much fun to do detailing on this. I can't wait for that. Look at this. This is crazy. You can definitely keep this in mind for the wings. I mean, I might do a version where I make the head even wider, but for right now I kind of like it where it's at, so I'm not going to mess with that. Could always do an alternate take. Because you're going to have cleavage, because it sells, right? That might have been a mistake, but we'll see. I sell cleavage, easy money. I love it. And then we're definitely going to have to give her like a cool necklace, I think, or something like that. I mean, I kind of like this as sort of, is it hard? Is it fleshy? I don't know. This part fleshy, this part maybe hard. So we'll do some interesting design right here to give her kind of a regal sense. I'll keep that in mind for later. I'm going to make her exaggerate the thinness of her hips a little bit. just so they kind of tuck in here, because I don't want her to start looking bulky. And this is not bad for 2 hours worth of work, you know, especially making it up as I go along. So I got about 5 minutes left tonight. So let's do a quick Dynamesh on this, and let's save it first. And then we'll kind of wrap it up for tonight. We'll continue with this next week. It's not quite the disaster I was worried it was going to turn out to be. So far I'm kind of enjoying it. So we'll see how badly I screw it up next week. Do you know if these VODs are available? Yeah, they usually post on the YouTube Pixelogic channel, usually within an hour or so of this finishing. And then they keep the archive up there for a while. So let me pull up that website real quick. The YouTube channel, I should say. It's just the Maxon YouTube channel. Okay. I highly recommend watching the other streamers, especially people like Paul Gabriel. He's going to have answered all your questions. So, whoops, we don't need to see my stupid YouTube gobbledygoo. Got a lot of Halloween crafting videos going on right now, and the usual political blah blah blah. Remember the internet was fun. Okay, here we go. Maxon ZBrush. So if you check this out, maxon.net ZBrush, check out all the cool streamer stuff. And so they have some of my older videos. Some of these even go back like a year or so. So if you want to see, the only thing I'll say is it's a little bit hard to find specific videos. I don't know if there's a way to filter them chronologically or whatever. But if you look up me, Eric Keller, you can see some of my older videos. Last week I finished the Arachnid Warrior, and you can see some of the other insect stuff I've done. And then there's a lot of other cool stuff up here. Some cool fan art. Here's some of the older videos. This one was from 5 months ago. This is from 4 months ago. This is from 3 months ago. You get the idea. So yeah, the older ones are up there for sure. This one is from 4 months ago. This is a honeybee from Scan. And then lots of other great stuff. All the ZBrush streamers are cool. Except for this guy. No, I'm just kidding. He's cool. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's weird exploration into the Tree Hopper Princess. Dun, 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 dun. It's kind of funky. Reminds me of like Star Wars Episode 1's designs or whatever, you know. It'll be fun when I texture it. I think it'll look really cool. And then I'm still on the fence about this thing. I don't know if that's making her look like Shark Girl. But we could always kill it later if it looks too dumb. But, you know. I'll do some cool stuff down here. When we get the legs segmented, like the arms, I think the design will start to come together a bit more, and I can make a decision on whether or not I like this. But